live. Welcome to AcoNight, a subsidiary. I can't believe I just said that right. Of TRB. We are here to talk to you all about the Acolyte Episode 7 choice. I'm John. With me, as always, is Lacey. And our special guest today is a YouTuber. You can see him all over Instagram. The artist formerly known as Diamond Figs, but now you know him as Will of the Force. Welcome to the base, Will Diamond. What's up, buddy?
Hey guys, thank you so much for having me. Star Wars is fun. It's a fun time to be a Star Wars fan.
Yeah, we're so excited to have you here.
Let me ask you this before I do my spiel to the audience. Will, have you been playing? Like, I've been seeing your clips and stuff, and you theorize for sure. Have you been putting the detective hat on and really trying to connect the dots and all that stuff? Like, how heavy you going with your conspiracies and your theories on what's happening with the show?
You can't see it off camera, but I have just about the largest magnifying glass, comically large magnifying glass you can think of that I've just been watching. My wife hates it. I sleep with it in bed. But, yeah, conspiracies, theories. This is honestly this show more so than a lot of other ones because as a Star Wars sweaty nerd, a lot of times it's just sitting in front of the camera doing the Leonardo DiCaprio meme when stuff pops up. But this one, it's like there's so much connecting of everything and pulling out weird references. It's been a really fun, at least for me, enjoyable show when it comes to all that in terms of detectiveness.
Yep. Yeah. We've been sort of in that same boat because I have said, like, yeah, this hasn't been my favorite Star Wars, but I've maybe more than a season that I've liked more. I've had more fun watching this because I like playing detective. And we hit on a couple of things, we missed on a bunch more, but it's a good time to just fling those theories out there. And I always enjoy, like, that's sort of what I got into podcasting, was like wondering what was going to happen in The Last Jedi or episode, 8, all that stuff. And that's what we're doing here, trying to figure out this mystery with one episode to go. So thanks everybody who are joining us live here in the chat, or if you're listening on your favorite podcast app. Either way, thanks for supporting TRB. And make sure you check out Will with Will the Force. So plug away, buddy. Where can people find you and what you got going on? Where's your channel? All that stuff.
Will the Force on everything with a underscore placed throughout in different places depending on the platform. So if you type in Will of the Force, just scroll down until you see a white guy with a mustache. That's basically how you find me.
There he is. All right, right on, man. And then we have super chats available if you want your comments or questions read on the show. And thank you for anyone who supports us on Patreon. You allow us to do these weekly live shows. You allow us to do our second podcast about other things we love on Nerdy and Nice. So thank you. And if you're able to, at least check it out. Go to patreon.com/TRB podcasts. Our tiers start at $5. We have Discord servers. We have monthly chats. We're actually doing one today after the show with our spice runners and our generals and our admirals. So if you are one of those, come hang with us after the show. It's chill. It's not broadcasted, so you can ease it up a bit and have some fun. But anyway, we are here to talk about the Acolyte. But real quick, Will, Lacey, while this news came out, Jeff Snyder, everyone knows him, breaking news, rogue reporter. He seems to be nailing a lot of his Star Wars scoops, and he just dropped this one today. Will, I don't know if you saw it. Sean Levy, which movie hasn't even been announced by Lucasfilm yet. But Sean Levy's like, I'm doing a Star Wars movie.
Golden Ticket movie is what he called it.
This Golden Ticket movie. Apparently, he has a writer, and it's the same writer who's worked with him several times, including on the Adam Project. So what do you guys think about this news of Jonathan Tropper reportedly writing the unannounced Sean Levy Star Wars movie? Lacey, I guess I'll start with you since I've been making Will talk a lot already out of the gate here.
I'm hyped for Sean Levy. I know that there was a lot of news last week going around about how people were like, oh, he's not doing Avengers anymore. He's out. He was being considered, but he said no. And you and I, John, had talked about how we were like, he's definitely wanting to do the Star Wars movie. He's not going to take on Marvel. He's talked about how much he wants to do it. Yeah, this is not surprising. People work with who they like to work with.
Yeah. So Will, are you a Sean Levy guy? Do you think the Star Wars movie that he's saying is happening is going to happen? And what do you think of the writing choice reported from Jeff Snyder, if it's true?
So in recent years with Star Wars, I am one to love announcements, but until I see a trailer, who knows whether
I
it
hear
comes.
ya.
Honestly, when
hear
you get a
ya.
trailer, who knows when you'll get the movie or the
True.
video game or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So I love hearing about new Star Wars movies, but until I'm actually in the theater seeing them on
I was gonna
opening
say
night,
sitting in the seat. Yeah.
yeah, who knows what year 25 years from now that movie will actually come out. I will say, taking off my Star Wars hat, that makes me incredibly excited for Deadpool.
Yes. Right.
If Disney is that bent on Sean Levy
Right.
doing his job. Adam Project was also a really good movie. I know that's not Star Wars, but I really liked it on Netflix.
It is good.
But yeah, that makes me super excited for Deadpool here in a couple weeks. Honestly, from what I've seen from Sean Levy, look, I would love honestly, just any return to Star Wars in the theaters at this point is what I would love to see. So if Sean Levy's the one to do it or have a movie in theaters, I'm all for it.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I'm with you guys on that. He seems to have a great energy, sort of like a JJ vibe with his personality and how people who work with him love to work with him, sort of thing. So we'll see. Hopefully, we get an official announcement on that, whether that be at D23 or maybe even Celebration next year. Who knows? But hopefully, the Sean Levy thing gets a little more meat behind it, the way Mandalorian and Grogu seems to be under Jon Favreau. But we're here to talk Acolyte. We are 7/8 through the season, which, you know, I don't know if you're a math major. That's a lot. We're through a lot of this season of the show, and we're going to talk about it. Lacey, before we get into the Kelnaka scale, it's going to be interesting. So before we do that, let's get to the super chats that we do have. And thank you in advance for everybody who has sent.
Yes. So first up, we have David Ford. Thank you so much. Who said Carrie Ann Moss got a lot done in just one day. Dean Chapman and Jonas must have exiled out of guilt for violating union working crew 24 hours. Union rules. Very funny.
Thank you,
And
David.
he also says, thank you for the super chat. Said, glad I caught the rerun. Forgot to set the VCR last time the episode aired like I did for Ewoks Battle of Endor and had to wait years to see it.
Oh, David.
David.
Thank you.
Danny. What up, Danny? And Mark, of course. Thanks for the super chat. She said, I just wanted to thank the TRB family. This was a polarizing episode and I was somewhat triggered by it. Everyone was respectful out of each other's opinions and supportive of each other. I just love TRB, heart. We love TRB too. And I can't say enough that everyone in our community just loves Star Wars, no matter what other people's opinions are. And even if you don't like something, they'll discuss it with you, which I love because I see a lot of things differently once talking it out with people on our Discord server and stuff.
Yeah. I always try to go about it, and I've matured more and more over the years as I had kids too, but it's like, pretend you are in person with that person. And would you say the stuff that you are about to type out? And it's like, probably not. And that's a good like starter kit for people who are having a hard time not being cool, you know?
I'm not even gonna lie. I've gotten to the point on Twitter where people will say something really ridiculous to me and I'll be like, are you okay? Like, is it all right? Are you gonna be is everything all right? And usually like they immediately come back and they like realize what they've said and they're like, oh, sorry. And sometimes people go off, which I had a guy go off on me last week calling me all these names because I was like, is everything okay?
Sometimes people just need a hug.
Yeah, like I get
True.
it. Life sucks sometimes, and I work in social media for a living, so I get that people come at social media with like all this energy that they probably got mad at their family member and they're coming at you being like, this is so stupid because they can't really be mad about what they want to be mad about. But yeah, every once in a while I just gotta be like, are you okay? Everything's gonna be all right.
Thanks, Danny.
Diana's up. What up? Thanks for your chat. She said, just sending some love. I hope Shirty McShirtless makes an appearance in the finale. Fingers crossed. Can I just tell you, I really wanted him to be in this episode. And when he wasn't, I was like, oh, we're really just getting
But When did people start calling me Shirty McShirtless? That's what I would like to know.
No one called
That's what I was waiting for.
Yeah,
I didn't know that I would be seeing an appearance tonight, but
I know. Oh.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
Will's like,
Next
I'm
is
coming back
Troy.
next week.
The
Troy.
Patreon's worth it, guys.
Troy says, no yellow eyes, not Sith, hiding like Palpatine.
All right, hold on. Now, like Dooku never did the yellow eyes thing, and he was Darth Tyrannus, right?
Anakin only had them at a certain point, right? He didn't have them the full time.
Like 2 times when he was burning alive and he was saying like I hate you, and
He was
then when,
burning alive. He made the switch.
and then when he did the side crying boy, he
Oh,
had, like,
Yeah, the Renaissance painting.
yeah. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I don't know,
yeah.
Troy. People, here's my only fear about next week is the people who are like, we are definitely getting Darth Plagueis, we are definitely getting Darth Tenebris, and then going in 100% locked on that, the same way Luke Skywalker was going to catch the lightsaber in The Force Awakens. You know what I'm saying? And it's not going to happen. It might not happen, and like they're gonna get so mad. And it's like, I am all about theory, speculation. I hope we see Darth Plagueis too, but you gotta be prepared that your idea is not gonna come on screen. So
Your focus determines your reality.
there it is.
Yeah.
Thanks so much, Troy. And that's it.
All right, let's rate this puppy because we have set records in a strange way with the TRB base. I am a very positive community, but not it's not always vibing with everybody. But let's go with the 0 to 10 Kelnaka scale, halves count. Will, you are a guest of honor. So what did you give episode 7 of the Acolyte on the Kelnaka scale?
Episode 7, easy 7. Honestly, for this episode, coming out of it, and I rewatched it earlier today, this wasn't necessarily my favorite episode of the season, but upon a rewatch, I enjoyed it a whole lot more. But initial score, 7.
Interesting. Okay. Did you happen to? I think you said you were going to try to do the rewatch of 3. Were you able to get after that? Yeah.
Yeah. So I watched
right.
3 and then immediately went into 7, and
Oh,
it
cool.
was. I got out of 7 and I texted one of my buddies, Grayson, who I think you brought up one of his chats earlier. But I texted him immediately and I was like, what? Because last night we usually go back and forth after watching the episodes. And I was like, I wasn't really feeling this one. Like there was some cool stuff, but out of everything we've seen, it wasn't necessarily my fave out of all 7. But I texted him right after watching and I was like, whoa, it's way different upon a rewatch. Which often it is after literally anything. If you give something a second try, you might like it or like it a whole lot less. But I was amazed at how much I liked it more upon a rewatch.
Nice.
And probably because it was backed up with episode 3, considering those are obviously the Acolyte's about twins and duality and a dyad in the Force, potentially, maybe, who knows? But those episodes being paired together as destiny and choice made it a whole lot of a better viewing experience for me.
Interesting. Lacey, I'm going to throw it to you because you had brought up something similar when we talked earlier about, maybe this how the show was broken up or presented is more of its problem than the story itself. But what did you give this one on the Kelnaka scale?
Yeah, I feel like if this show was split up differently, I would have a different reaction to some of these episodes. They just seem kind of weirdly placed, or like they're splitting it up just to make more time to have people on the app longer more than storytelling, but that's just me. I don't know if that's true or not, but I gave this a 6.
That's
which
low. Yeah.
I don't want to be a hater because I'm not hating. I'm just being, based on my own ratings for other shows. I think that might be the lowest score I've ever given.
I think
for a
I
Star
think
Wars
it is
show.
too. I think it might be too.
This episode for me, while there were moments that were interesting, I think Torben's lightsaber skills were insane. And I was so pumped to see
That
them.
was cool.
I think, per usual, Soul was great acting wise. The acrobatics of him fighting Kelnaka were intense. I just felt like this episode wasn't necessary. I think they could have included some of these moments earlier on or in episode 3 they didn't have to do the one and then the other. I felt like they were just dragging it out, and there were even moments that like the same shots were used that were in episode 3, so they weren't even a different take. It was just like the same shot. I just felt like it was unnecessary, but that's just me.
Like when you're like, oh, Seinfeld's on, and it's like the clip show, and you're like,
Yeah. The clip show. Oh no, the clip show.
I don't need the clip show. No, I'm Lacey. I'm with you. I think this is my lowest score also, and I also gave it a 6. So we're all in the same ballpark. And I still like, because I'm such a Star Wars fan, I'm going to like this more than a casual viewer of television who's like, I just didn't like it. Like I will find the things I like the Kelnaka stuff, like the Torben stuff, and some of the Soul stuff as well. And there were certainly moments where I was like, whoa, okay, that's happening. The Lost black ghost monster thing. So which, very Mother Talzin-ish. So
I thought it was more like Avengers Snap. Like that's what they look like to me.
It's definitely interesting when you juxtapose it against like Darth Vader was the most menacing evil force in the galaxy, and it's like he's like, I can barely get up in the morning. I'll pinch your neck, I swear to God. And then these people are just turning into dust and like getting inside your brain,
getting into your head.
Yeah,
which is, I'll get into that.
So, but I gave it a 6. I'm still enjoying it. It's definitely not my favorite. I have some things that give me a lot of issues that I'll get to later about the Jedi. But our average, as you see on the screen, if you're watching, is a 6.3. But believe it or not, we are actually rating this higher than the TRB community. And the TRB community only gave this one 5.2 Kelnakas. And let me tell you, that is saying something, because I understand, Will, you probably saw like the absurdities of the review bombing happening on IMDb and Rotten Tomatoes before the show comes out.
This episode had a rating of 3 before it even aired on Disney Plus.
So that's so embarrassing.
Yeah.
Like, let me set my alarm and wake up and rate this thing before it comes out, because that'll show them.
I'm telling you, other stuff's going on in people's lives, and this is the way they're channeling that energy.
I feel bad. Like, no one should be at that point of anger or whatever in your life where you have to rate a TV show before it comes out because you are pre-planning to not like it. I understand that people don't like it.
Once you see it and you don't like it, that's a different
and how you handle it and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But 5.2. So I think that's the lowest for our patrons. But we have some comments to show
I want people to know that this episode not only was the lowest ranked one for us, it was definitely the lowest ranked for patrons. And there were people on Patreon that said 0.
Yeah. We're going to read one of those zeros right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
that's crazy.
We'll start off with a positive review, which came from Stephen Garrow. Thank you, Stephen. And he said, I'll give it an 8.5. I like how they did the flashback. Very good lightsaber fights. And they still have quite a bit of story left for the finale. So thank you, Stephen. Then we have sort of a negative review here with a 5.5 out of 10 from Darth Snips. And she said, this felt like a waste of an episode. I'm trying so hard to like this show and still have zero attachment to the Jedi. I feel sad at the end of the episode. I wanted to badly like it, but I'm struggling. And I've heard that from people who have loved all of the recent Star Wars. And now we have Danny, who's often very positive, gave it a 0. And Danny said the series was already meh for me, but my deal breaker basically happened today. I'm not happy with the predatory ways that the Jedi were portrayed at all. I'm committed to seeing it through to the last episode, but the whole series is a bust for me. So it's all over. Like, you have people who love it. You have people who just really didn't like it, and people who are like, I don't know what to think. So it's very interesting. And we'll get into that in a bit here. Now, the thing we have to do, of course, for those of you who've been following all season, we thank you, is we have to give you the next number in the Sith code. And then we're going to get into the full discussion of that episode. So for any of you who are joining us now and you want to catch up, each episode we've been releasing a number. It is part of a Sith code. Now you have to figure out what to do. And next week, When I reveal the final number in the code, I will tell you exactly what you need to do and how to enter to win the Return of the Jedi Emperor Palpatine Legends in 3-Dimension bust from Gentle Giant and the new Black Series The Stranger electronic helmet, which will arrive at your doorstep in the year 2035. So
It's cool though.
Yeah.
They're making it out of actual Cortoses.
Yeah, we're gonna find Cortosis before that thing even makes it out. But yeah, so good luck to everybody. The next number, the 7th number in the Sith code is 6. Not 66, just 6. So jot it down. Don't tell your friends. Be the best Sith you can be. And then good luck to everybody next week as we approach the end of the Sith code. All right. Let us kick this thing off. We have a super chat to knock out first, Lacey, and then we'll get Will's favorite moment from the episode.
Yeah, so we have another super chat from Troy. Thank you so much, Troy. You said when you visited Children of the Watch last year, glad to have found you. Oh, thanks so much.
Thank you,
they're a great crew. They
are.
were on a couple episodes ago, and we went bananas in that episode. So
We
definitely go back and watch it because it was one of our most wild speculation episodes.
Yeah,
It was
Alex
a lot of fun.
and Mac are awesome. Welcome to the base anytime. All right, Will, here we go. So you gave this one a 7. Did you have a favorite shot or moment, scene, line from this episode that you were like, I loved it?
Yes, Lacey, you actually mentioned it a little bit earlier, and I saw you tweet about it. Torben was spinning that lightsaber.
Anakin, yeah.
Dude, if there was Instagram in the Acolyte, he would have millions of views as a lightsaber influencer right now. That was so, like, at that point, I was sitting there, I watched all these episodes with my wife, and we were sitting there and we were like, oh, okay. Like, she was not feeling this episode. Her rating might have been close to a 0, like some other people. But she was watching, and then when Torben pulls up, when the bowcasters or whatever you want to call those, whatever that weapon is, there's probably a name for it that I'm a bad Star Wars fan for not knowing. When they start shooting at Torben and he's just slicing and dicing like a Ninja Turtle, I was like, this is Star Wars. Let's go. This is what I wanted to see. So that was my favorite moment from the episode last night by far.
Yeah, that's a huge moment, no doubt about it. And I feel like all these actors, I don't know if it's like the Hayden Christensen, the ghost of Hayden Christensen of his legend, but all these actors really step up their game and like learn this stuff really good. So
wouldn't you, if you have the opportunity to learn lightsaber training, like, wouldn't you be like, this is it? This is my moment. Even if I'm in this for 2 seconds,
no.
I will take the class.
I'd be a heavy banger. I'd be give me the heavy. Give me the
baseball swinging Luke Skywalker, Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, I want to be that guy. I want to go for an 0-2 count and swing out of my cleats type of swing with my lightsaber. I don't want to.
I'm gonna learn the Hayden spin by the end of the year. I'm putting a challenge on myself.
Annie. Right. There was that interview with Amanda a while ago. I don't know if it was before the show came out, but they were talking about how they had such a standard and like actually had to apologize to crew on set while they were like doing lightsaber things of like, hey, I'm so sorry, but Anakin is who I have in my head. So if this doesn't look at least like Hayden Christensen, and I think they were watching like iPad footage of Hayden on set to be like, he's doing this. Great. If I'm not looking like this, then I don't want to do it at all. Like we have to be here until it's right. It's like when your dad's a old sports coach and you're like, you're not leaving until you do it right. Like Amanda knew what they were doing, you know?
Yeah, they in all their interviews too, they always talked about their like Hayden, Anakin, Hayden, because they all grew up, I think, on the prequels,
which is awesome.
So it's so funny to me, and I feel like Hayden just like walked into set sometimes being like, you guys need some tips, because he's just like always at Lucasfilm.
Yeah.
Hey, he's got like the legacy, like he probably has a parking spot out front. Like
chosen like, one, but the one is a actual one for a
vanity plate. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Absolutely. All right. That's a great spot there. Lacey, how about you? Did you have a favorite shot or moment from this one?
Surprisingly, the moment that really stood out to me, because I've never seen it done in Star Wars, was the moment that Mother Anastasia got into Torben's head. When that moment happened where he gets possessed now and like everybody's gone and he's like I was like, oh my god, they're doing this. It seemed like very much a kind of like a Buffy the Vampire Slayer moment or something that was very supernatural. And I remember saying out loud, because my husband was sitting next to me, like, oh, they're doing this. Because it was so out there. It was like seeing the Force bond for the first time between Rey and Kylo. It was like, this is so unique. I don't know how I feel about it being in Star Wars, I'm gonna be honest, but it definitely kind of felt Buffy the Vampire Slayer for me. But it was very cool. And it was also interesting that she wasn't necessarily forcing herself into his mind. She was kind of like, hey, don't you want me to help you? Convincing him, manipulating him a little bit. But it also makes me think that that's connected to Chimere because he gets in the people's heads and they bring that up. They're like, he gets in your head and you can't get him out. And then here's this character doing the same exact thing. So I know John and I talked about this before we're on here, but I'm really puzzled right now of where this series is going to go because every theory I had is kind of still in my head, but I'm like trying to like weave them into making sense, like confirmation bias, like, oh, clearly this means this because this happened. But I feel like I have been kind of turned upside down on what I thought was the story.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been interesting. My favorite part is kind of lame because we've seen it for months now. It's the big Wookiee leap.
Yeah,
It's
it was
just
very
like,
cool. The acrobatics and stuff. Yeah.
and you know why it's my favorite part? Because I know the moment. And
Yeah.
still when I'm watching it, I was like, whoa, don't come at me. I was so into that. And I'm so happy for Jonas.
Oh,
Because
yes.
the first time we got to have him, and we did a quick interview with him on the show years ago, and he's like, wouldn't that be cool if I could have a lightsaber? And it's like, now he's in
And be a
Star Wars.
Wookiee Jedi. He said specifically a Wookiee Jedi, and we were like, yes, that would be
It's like, oh,
awesome.
were you were in Star Wars? He's like, yeah. He's like, oh, who are you? He's like, I was Chewbacca. They're like, oh my god, you were Chewie? And then he's like, oh yeah, I was also a Jedi. And it's like, Jonas is living the best life ever. He was in Willow. He got to check that box. I
Mm.
I
love
will
Jonas.
say, I wish he got to walk around more as himself on red carpets and stuff
I
like
know
that.
they keep sticking him in the suit, and they're like, "Dance, monkey!"
Yeah,
like pose, hairy walking carpet.
I just wish it was. I get maybe do the Amandla thing. If Amandla can change dresses, Jonas can wear the suit and then take it off and walk down the carpet. You know what I mean?
That's
Yeah.
a great point. Yeah, I feel
Yeah.
bad for him. I thought the same thing. I was like,
Yep.
this poor guy, and it might not be him, it might be someone else, but I'm sure it is him.
Which honestly might be even worse if it's not.
I know.
I think
You're
I
right.
think it's
You're
someone,
right.
I think it's someone else because I would always like with the makes a little too happen stuff. I would share like there was one photo I loved sharing, which was Jonas in his tuxedo with his arm around the guy in the Chewie costume at the premiere.
Cool.
But then he wasn't invited, is what Will was saying. Then Jonas.
I don't
wasn't
know if he
there.
wasn't invited, but there's
No,
like
but I'm
a
saying
million
if he
cast
wasn't
photos.
there, I'm saying
Oh yeah,
if he wasn't in the suit and it was someone else, and that means Jonas wasn't there.
yeah.
Maybe that's the twist of the Acolyte.
Jonas is actually the Sith Lord.
Yeah, actually Jonas. It's like the Matrix 4 where they like broke the fourth wall when they talk about the Matrix.
Even
whatever they did.
Celebration, they were like, "Go put the suit on."
Yeah, seriously.
All right, so yeah, the Wookiee leap for me is my favorite moment. Honestly, I know it's like low-hanging fruit, but the lightsaber stuff that they've been doing, I think even people who don't love this era, the lightsaber stuff they've been doing has been pretty cool because it's been a nice hybrid of the very choreographed feeling of the prequels and the rawness of the original trilogy, and I thought it's been really solid in this show too. So cheers to Leslie Headland, the directors, and the crew and the cast for giving us some really interesting lightsaber stuff. All right, so let's talk about this though, because it's a crazy episode. We got the different point of view now. You know, I feel Will, I went into this series nervous about how they were going to like portray the Jedi, and my hope was have introduce the Sith and have them come back, and don't tarnish like the perception or goodness of the Jedi. Like, have the Sith manipulate the Jedi or the public to turn on the Jedi. Like, I'm a little disappointed that it still has come to the Jedi did do something bad. But what I've noticed people talking about a lot is, well, the Jedi didn't really do something bad. It was with good intentions. It's like, but what no one's talking about is that they are actively covering it up, which with governments, including our own, I'm not going to get political at all, but like covering stuff up
everybody
is bad sometimes.
Companies, governments, schools, everybody, anybody in
so
power.
The fact that they've actively said, no, we need to cover this up is showing fear of losing something, which is your position and power, because they keep talking about the Republic is like breathing down their necks. The Jedi, and this show started with the blue font, the height of the Jedi Order. If this is the height of the Jedi, and they're acting very Sith-like in their behavior, that's just like I just wish they didn't take that angle with it. I think there were other ways to do it to show how viable and evil the Sith are, to not make it, oh, the Jedi messed up and that's how they got their foot in the door. That's just my problem in general.
What do you think,
when it comes to, so this show was at least marketed a lot from early talk about it, of like this was going to be from the perspective of the Sith and from the bad guys is an easy way to just simplify that. This episode, up until this point, I was still holding out hope the same way of, I wish the Jedi, like, I don't want the Jedi to be the bad guy. You know what I mean? But what this episode, I think, did do, not necessarily as a negative or a positive, but more just from an info dump perspective, I don't think anybody's the good guy at this point or the bad guy in this episode. Like, the Rashomon effect of how everything is from a different perspective.
Yeah.
The more info you get from everybody's perspective, honestly, one of my main criticisms going into next episode is like, I'm not really rooting for anybody to win because they all kind of suck.
They all
you know what I mean?
I agree.
Like, Osha and May were totally treated terrible by everyone.
Yeah. And then when they get older, they still kind of suck. It's like they just follow in the footsteps of the people who wronged them to begin with. And like, obviously the apple doesn't fall too far from the witch hole in the ground on Brendock. But
what
like,
does the hole mean? I still go back to that. What does the hole mean? There's so many questions. Keep going.
What does the hole mean?
What does it mean?
Make a t-shirt. But it's very off-putting, and I think coming out of that episode last night, one of the reasons why I didn't enjoy it so much is because I was like, the person who I want to see the most now in the next episode, like you said, Lacey, at the beginning, was like, I want to see Kamir, because if he wins, it's because at least his morals are sound in that he is the bad guy. And if he wins, or at least has some victories in the next episode as the bad guy, I'm like, all right, that makes sense. It's cool to see the bad guy do bad guy stuff. But to see the good guy and like the range of characters in the show all kind of do bad guy stuff, in terms of Star Wars, which is, you know, made for kids and supposed to be about hope, it bummed me out, dude.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It was crazy just watching it all fall apart as the episode's going on. You're like, don't do that. Oh, you did it. Please don't do this. Oh, yep, you're going for it. I think that it was just so many different layers that kept happening. I know with Master Soul, I was like, he definitely has this obsession with wanting a Padawan, which is completely different than Obi-Wan, who was like, please don't give me anyone. And they're like, here's Anakin. Here he is. And he's like, please don't. Whereas Master Soul really wants a Padawan, so he kind of has Osha in his mind. And I jokingly put up a gif of Sophie's Choice, which, by the way, there are multiple pop culture references of Sophie's Choice, from The Office to Schitt's Creek to Friends. They all make the joke of like, it's a Sophie's Choice.
Yeah.
But yeah, it seemed like he was already making that decision before he even went in there. And then you have May, who did the test, who was lying before they even started the test, but then she translated the message from her mother wrong. So then it set them off to be on alert. She was like, "Oh, you have to be sacrificed for the greater good," and that's not what the mother had said. But yeah, I just have a lot of questions. Like, we still don't know why they got exiled and why they were on this planet. We still don't necessarily know how these twins were created. We don't know what the hole is. Still go back to that. We don't know if Indara actually spoke to the Jedi Council, or she just went back to the ship and was like, all right, so the Jedi Council said no, because like you don't have proof of it. You don't see it happen. It's just her say.
So I was like, let me check your phone.
Yeah. Show me, I want to see the receipts. I actually have it written down. I'm so happy you brought that up, Lacey, because one of my questions, like everybody, I think anybody, if you look at their page, if they're a Star Wars creator at this point, everyone is saying, that episode left me with more questions than answers. Yeah. It's a mystery show. I feel the exact same way. But one of my questions is, in the first episode, when Yord confronts Osha, and they have that whole, like, they do the thing in Star Wars or any media where they bring you up to speed on what's going on in the world. They go, 5 years ago, me and you met, blah, blah, blah. But Yord, you already know all.
Yes.
Like, but during that conversation, when I forget what the Padawan's name is questioning Osha, and she's explaining how she was not necessarily brought into the order, but was almost kicked out of the order.
Are you talking about the one with the ears?
Yes.
It's like Tawny something. She's the one in the trailer that's like
Tawny
Jedi
Katane.
being...
Yeah.
What? Is that her name? That's not her name.
White Snake video.
Oh.
Hey, somebody change it on Wikipedia.
Sorry, guys.
But that's Shirty Mix Shirtless. That's the song that you dance to. But in that conversation, so she says a major concern about admitting you to the order was your age. That's before. And Indara talks about that a little bit in this episode with her like weird wanting to maybe Osha, maybe not, and then calling the council, which who knows if she actually did. But
hey, council.
Yeah.
Oh, yep. Sorry. They said no.
It's
like
what
you
when it looks at the phone and it's just your home screen and it's not actually on a call with anybody.
Yeah.
But Yord says, and you are in mourning, and Osha says, my circumstances were unique, but the council made the decision. And then Yord says, Master Indara advised the Jedi Council to discontinue your training when you were, and then Osha cuts him off. So advised to discontinue training means that she was already in the order and did something to have to get kicked out. So I think a lot of people are, when they heard, at least I did, when I heard that conversation for the first time before I went back and listened to it, was like, oh, it's the Anakin thing. He's too old. We can't train him, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
But that the advised to discontinue is why two questions. Want to know if Indara actually called the council, but two, who told them to go to Brendok in the first place to find that virgins? Because that's where they're on that mission when they're around the campfire.
Looking for moss, yeah.
Yeah. We're here for a virgins. Like, that means they were alerted and sent there. They didn't get to pick to go on that mission. So there's just so much going on with Indara and her like motives that's where most of my questions are at this point.
So thank you for bringing that up, because now I'm back on the train that Indara is the Sith and that she's
Get it.
pulling all the strings. We've been saying this for weeks, and I was trying to think of all the ways besides, I don't know, she got into the mind of 30 people and murdered them, that she was the bad guy and like saying, hey, I talked to someone and she didn't. But that is a very good point. I haven't had a chance to go back and like look through all the different, which is again why I feel like this should have been a movie. Like, I feel like I would have gotten more out of it if it was big chunks of this instead of having to like dig through episodes. But yeah,
or dropped all as one season, I think.
Or as one season.
Completely different viewing experience.
Yes, I just feel like we talked about this since probably before the show even came out. Well, it was like, You're sitting down at a casting call with Carrie-Anne Moss, and you're like, we want you to play Indara. She dies in the first 5 minutes. Like, she's there, she's like super cool, but she dies. People are gonna be really shocked, but like, it'll be great for you. I don't think you sign on Carrie-Anne Moss if she's dying in the first 5 minutes and she's just at maybe 2 episodes. It makes no sense.
Yeah. Completely agreed.
I still think there's a possibility that theory is true. I am at the point now, though, that I've pointed the finger at every character.
You have. You definitely have.
Yeah. That's how you are a good detective, though. Because if you accuse everybody, eventually you're going to be right.
See, this is why I would be a terrible cop, because I know that when I watch a documentary, they like obviously lead you in different directions.
Yeah.
I will stick with that first direction the entire time. I'll be like, no, it's clearly this person. It's them. And I would be a terrible cop because I'd be like, you're the murderer. They'd be like, I was just getting I'm like, nope, murderer.
I have a problem with Torben. I don't know what it is, but now my eyes on him. Yep.
He's dead.
I think there was a little bit of Kelnaka that was still behind those black sad eyes that was like, I want to scratch his face anyway because I don't want to
go home. Go home.
Yeah, he wants to go back to Coruscant really bad. Why is a Jedi that anxious to go home? I don't know why. Because maybe the Sith headquarters that wound up being Palpatine's headquarters are also on Coruscant, and maybe that little juice that Chimere made for him to drink wasn't actually poison after all.
You think he's just alive back there with his receding LeBron James hairline? He's just still alive?
He's got the LeBron James hairline going. It's still first quarter, so it's still fresh. But why remember like the whole 2R1, and it's like, is it this split consciousness, or how connected are the twins? They have the same exact M count variance that shows that it's like weird. And when Osha's there on that planet at that Jedi temple, it's like the vision of May who guides her to Torben's body. And it's like, that didn't happen a lot. There was one other time she followed that May voice, and I forget where she took her. But it's like, and I'm not sitting here saying like, oh, Torben's the Sith Lord now. But there was also that weird moment when they were doing the test where he's watching, and he's the one who did the blood tests also. And Indara looks at him, and he's just like looking at her. And I'm like, are they just trying to get us to speculate on everybody? And if they are, it's working, because I think there's something weird with him now.
You seriously think Torben is behind anything besides, hey, just get me out of here?
I don't know. He's very aggressive.
He seems like the character in every show that like does the terrible thing, like Star-Lord in Endgame, where you're like, what are you doing? There was a plan. Stick by the plan.
Okay, but what made these Jedi such bad Jedi? Because he is not practicing any patience whatsoever. He's like, he's doing Anakin things. He's hopping on a speeder, just like in Attack of the Clones. And what happened to Anakin? He did his first major step to the dark side when he did that.
It didn't look good, by the way. The speeders looked a little janky.
They were big in the back. They looked like big old ants.
Yeah. But you see what I'm saying? Like he's like, I'm just taking off, and he goes off, and he wants to get home, and he's frustrated. Like, that's very non-Jedi stuff. And Soul is very reactive. He's very impulsive. He has ambition, and he's acting in fear and almost too much love and care for Osha that he's blinded. Like, these are all paths to the dark side. All this stuff Yoda mapped out. So why are these Jedi? Were they sent here because they're the worst Jedi or something? Like, if these are, I'm not even trying to be
they're the Suicide Squad of Jedi.
yeah. You're telling us like this is the Jedi at their height, and all these people are doing very Sithy type of behavior, very impassioned, reactive, emotive behavior. And I'm just trying to understand why. I'm giving Kelnaka the pass because he didn't seem to do anything when he wasn't possessed.
But what happened to Mother Quarrel, though? Because she didn't, I don't think she got out of there.
She's still around.
There's just something very strange about that.
Yeah, he was drawing the circles and stuff in his little hut.
Yeah. I feel bad for Kelnaka, dude, because...
Yeah, me too.
Because I guess Wookiees, it's like illegal in their culture, in their species, to like take out their claws. And that was the first thing he did with Torben. So like that's double where like you immediately get shunned from the Wookiee on Kashyyyk. So like that's double exile for him. Like, oh, I'm a Jedi and I messed up another Jedi, but also like as a Wookiee, I used my claws, which is like the number one no. I felt super bad.
That's canon. That's canon.
Yeah. I don't know if that's canon, but I do know that that's just something I remember from being a kid.
And Leslie Hedlund has been borrowing things too. So
yeah.
And
he exiled himself immediately. So whether it be Jedi based or like just all the guilt that he has, he's the one I feel most bad for out of all of them.
Me too. But am I making this up, or did at some point in the first or second episode they said he was ordered to Kofar? I believe they like stationed him there, or they sent him there.
So you're right, Will. By the way, Wookiees never use their claws in combat. It's part of the Wookiee honor code.
Yeah.
And they get labeled as mad claws if they use them.
That's a really cool term.
That is cool. That'd be a cool band name.
Thank you, Wikipedia.
Thank you, Wikipedia, for sure. Like, I would not be able to talk about a lot of this stuff without Wikipedia.
100%.
Yeah. So, and the other question, which a lot of people are assuming, is when Indara tried to bring back Kelnaka, did she inadvertently kill the witches, or did she purposely kill the witches? Did she kill the witches? Like, that was very interesting to me. I don't know.
I think she killed them. I think it was very clear that like that moment that she was helping Kelnaka and she got in his head too. I was like, oh, dang, she's really powerful. And then all those people were like, blah, 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 and then they died. And I was like, oh, she just killed a room full of people. So when you see Osha looking up and you hear all the witches scream, I think that was them getting killed by Indara.
Yeah. Which lends to the whole Indara covering things up, because there's no better way to cover up a thing like that if there's absolutely no witnesses.
Just murder everyone.
Yeah.
It's I don't know. I feel like there's so many. I mean, you joked about it, Will, like, oh, we got way more questions. And I'm pretty sure on the We Are Live tweet, I said exactly that. But it is funny that we have one episode to go, and I doubt we're going to get like a 90-minute episode. Like, it's probably going to be 40 something minutes or whatever, I would guess. I don't know. There's a lot to do because there was no Chimera in this episode. So now we have one episode to go with that whole thing that was happening on this unknown planet. There's just so many things that have to be not necessarily completed, because if they want to continue the story in season 2, but she did say they told a complete story
she did.
this season.
Yeah.
So whatever her definition of complete is, I'm sure there will still be a cliffhanger of some sorts, because if you're doing a mystery story and you have a plan for a season 2, you leave a cliffhanger. I mean, they even did a cliffhanger with Willow, and they're not going to be making a Willow 2, unfortunately.
I loved Willow.
I enjoyed it too. But I'm nervous about that. Like, what all they have to do in this next episode, and we're all still scratching our head.
And is there someone landing?
And is there someone above Chimera, as most of us are theorizing? Then you got to introduce that person, or is that left over for season 2? So I'm going into like, sometimes you go into these shows and you're like, I think I know how they may round this out, but this one I have no idea. Yeah, and that's cool. I'm cool with that though. Surprised me.
Mm-hmm.
I will say there was that.
Go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead. I was going to talk about the Leslie Hedlund quote that I saw. I forget who brought it up. Now that I'm bad with sources, I apologize. Whoever did this, comment below if it was you. I apologize. You're to do for this. But Leslie Hedlund said, I think a good twist is telegraphing what's going to happen, and then once it does, executing it without an ounce of pity or sentimentality. So after seeing that today, I'm like, is everything just the way it is? Like, if her goal is to telegraph it to you, and then kind of like Kamir with, oh yeah, this guy's creepy. That backpack looks weirdly helmet-sized, Kamir. And then he ends up being the Sith Lord, like, and do it without an ounce of pity. I'm just like, if this is so in your face, I just want to.
Then what's the mystery then? Because she's been
exactly.
painting this as a mystery the entire time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
which is
That's
why I
a
was a
good
little
question.
bummed.
That is a good
Yeah.
question.
Also, like, there's just the variables thrown into this, like this late in the game. Like, so Mother Anastasia turning into the mystical smoke, but it also seemingly happens to May in the same moment. So are they clones of her? And she, like, what happens to her happens to them, sort of thing. Like, there's been sort of like almost like a voodoo doll, so to speak. But there's been like fantasy stories where, like, oh, if we like in The Crow, like if we hurt the crow, all of a sudden Brandon Lee starts bleeding out of his chest. It's like, is there something where, like, something when Anastasia died, did that do something to the twins? Did that diminish their power in some way? Is that why May was maybe not as strong as Chimera thought and he gave up on her? Like, I just have so many
Mm.
more questions, and I know that's a very cliche thing to say at this point, but it's like, I think my mind is way more confused than ever at this point.
Interesting. There is a comment in the chat from Galactic Curator Kendall. What up, man? He said one thing I read was that the mother was trying to teleport both of them out to get them out of the
It looked like
space.
Cal Kestis being able to teleport when you play Survivor on Dathomir, and he's able to like use the Night Sister power to teleport between the walls while he's running. That's the first thing I thought of when I saw that. I was like, oh, she's gone. And then because she says you hear no, but you don't see it come from her mouth. Like you just hear somebody scream
True.
no, which is
Yeah.
like, it kind of lends to the whole thing of like when she's in the dream, or not the dream, but like in the force vision with Torben, you hear her voice at so many points where her face, like she's not actually saying it. So her coming out of her body in that point, I think the teleport thing, or look, you could easily say the whole Darth Sidious Palpatine force essence transfer. If the power of one, power of two, power of many, and there
Yeah.
being this whole thing of like, you have to sacrifice part of yourself to be able to rule and to victory and all that stuff. Could be force transfer, but the teleport thing, I was like, that is very likely, I thought.
That's
Interesting.
interesting. Yeah.
Do we want to get to some super chats really quick?
Yeah, absolutely.
So first up, we have Sneaky Zebra. What up, man? He said, well, in some Jedi defense, Indara made him hide the truth to protect Osha from losing more. Let her have this dream to be a Jedi, because if she loses that, then she has nothing. Sad face. Welcome to my LA traffic rant. That's a totally good point, Sneaky Zebra. AK Gary. What up, man? But as we were talking about earlier, it makes no sense in the case that Will was saying that Indara then was the one that kind of got her kicked out. Like, oh, don't take this from her, but then she got her kicked out anyway. Like,
Well,
she
also
kinda...
Vernestra was like, yeah, don't tell the High Council about this. Like,
yeah, there's
to me, it seemed like,
dude.
yeah, it seemed to me like they've done this several times, like very often. They were like, yeah, just put this in the pile of not to talk about.
so and I saw some I saw some of the comments were like, you know, I don't like John's take on the Jedi. It's like, I love the Jedi. I think they're boring. I wouldn't want to hang out with them. But
You've said that for years. Like,
you
5
want to go back to Coruscant if you're with them at a campfire.
yeah, sure, of course. I wanna meet up with all my roughnecks and all my changelings and all my weirdos at the Outlander Club. But Anthony Daniels just having a cocktail at the bar.
Mhm.
But it's just, there's something about this being how the Sith are able to rise, is that the Jedi messed up. And it's like, that sort of is what Palpatine was able to do using politics. And he clearly learned from what came before him, because as he said, Plagueis taught him everything he knew. So these steps that the Sith are taking are one thing, and Palpatine probably is going to learn from that failure and execute it the way he did. And he succeeded for a long time. But I would just personally would rather that the Sith found a way to manipulate the public or do things to personally directly affect the Jedi, as opposed to the Jedi just were bad at being Jedi, and they screwed up, and then they tried to cover it up, and it just piled up, and that's how the Sith were able to get in, because they were so focused on their cover-ups that they couldn't sense the darkness. I just, that's just my personal thing. Like, and it's nothing against the Jedi, and I'm not trying to trigger people who love the Jedi. Like, I like the Jedi. If I was in trouble in a galaxy far, far away, I would love for a Jedi to show up and help me. But in terms of how they're being portrayed, like Soul is a bad Jedi. Don't tell me he's a good Jedi. The guy is afraid. He's way too ambitious. He doesn't use patience. He doesn't see everything for what it really is. He clearly saw that vantage point from a negative point of view as to what was happening for the kids, and he maybe cared too much. Like, a lot of Soul's traits are wonderful for a person, but by how the Jedi write their book, he's not a good to me, because I sort of wanted him to be of higher ilk Jedi and be like the one that stands out above all of this darkness that's happening. So I don't have any like Jedi to cling to right now, and it's weird for me as a guy who likes the end of any Star Wars being with some sense of hope. The Acolyte's not probably going to give that to me, so I need to prepare myself and adjust accordingly.
Yeah.
Nice. So let's go to I don't want to follow that rant. I thought it was a very good rant, by the way. Troy's up again. What up, Troy? He said, personally, I like the Jedi not being perfect. Still human, more relatable. Intentions are regularly turning to bad results with best intentions. That's fair. And then Troy followed it up with, I agree, Torben was acting strange. He was acting strange,
What
but
if it was just Mountain Dew in that little vial? That's all I'm saying.
And last but not least, we have, of course, Freezy2324. Wouldn't be a show without you, Freezy. He said, TRB and Will, do you think the fandom will ever be united like it was around 2016 again? What do you think needs to happen content-wise for that to happen? I think there have been glimpses of that, Freezy. When The Mandalorian first came out, I think everybody was really surrounded by it. Then people went their separate ways with what they thought about it. I have a very good feeling about Skeleton Crew. I think Skeleton Crew is going to unite people. I think it's coming at it from a different angle, like the whole Goonies, Stranger Things, Star Wars aspect.
Get more families involved.
Yeah, families involved, which I think, while I love I'll say some of the stuff that we've gotten, it has felt very negative, very dark, very gritty. And some people like that. And I've openly said that that's not my thing. I would prefer Mandalorian baby moments over, people getting murdered, but that's fine. I think Skeleton Crew. What do you guys think? Will's making a face.
Skeleton Crew is a hot button issue for your boy Will over here.
Oh, why?
Let it rip, dude.
Go. Why?
Oh, I feel so bad. I think more because it's funny that this question came up to bring up Skeleton Crew.
I brought up Skeleton Crew, but yeah.
Well, but about the fandom being united is
yes.
I worry with Skeleton Crew because it's like Goonies is great and Stranger Things is great. But when it comes to what the loudest people in the fandom for Star Wars consider to be good Star Wars, a show centered around 4 children in a ship in space doesn't seem like it's going to, at least for me, and we also don't know a lot about the show, doesn't seem like it's really going to check a lot of boxes for the people who online are very vocal about Star Wars switching to a 100% Andor-esque franchise.
So you would say, okay, so then I'm going to follow it up with a question to you, Will. Do you think that loudest part of fandom is the majority of people or just the loudest?
No, I think I was talking. Hey, Grayson, you brought up another comment by him. Hey, Grayson, I love my buddy Grayson. We were talking about it today, and a lot of my worry with that, no, it isn't the majority. I think a lot of the normie casual viewer, I brought up my dad when I was talking about Grayson. He doesn't know about a new Star Wars project till he is watching a Giants game and a trailer comes up in a commercial break. He goes, oh, there's new Star Wars. And he texts me and he goes, hey, did you see there's new Star Wars? And I'm like, yeah, Dad, I've been talking about it for 6 years.
Dad, I make content all the time about
Dad, do you see how many pins I have on my jacket?
Have fun in your computer, Will.
Yeah. Hey, you want to go watch some videotapes? But when it gets to that normie casual viewer and they really don't have somebody like our family members to text and be like, hey, what's going on with this Star Wars project? And we give our honest opinion. Maybe we're not too excited about it, but we're going to make it enjoyable when we're talking about it, right? With Star Wars, we haven't seen it yet. We're going to give our opinion. There are so many people who are normie who can just go on Google and type in opinion, Acolyte, and without watching it, a lot of times those loudest voices are the voices they see first, and then they go, oh, I don't need to like this, it ruins canon. So when it comes to something like
It's funny you say that. My husband came up to me like week 2 and was like, so how's Acolyte? I was like, oh, it's going. He's like, I heard it's terrible. And I was like, you're in my house. You're in how dare you? He's like, yeah, I was watching some show and they were telling me how bad it was, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh my God.
The phrase I heard is like, when it comes to Star Wars, I usually check out afterwards because I'm like, but did you watch? Because
I felt so ashamed. I was like, get out. Get
That
out.
would be funny if Lacey had no idea that Matt was like a full-time subscriber to like the Zero guy, and we're like,
no.
did you hear that Kathleen Kennedy is actually a robot and
in
she
a
died
dark
8
room
years
with
ago?
just a computer screen typing away?
Welcome to the channel. I'm standing in front of my dartboard. I'm gonna tell you the truth. All right.
This is what you're not getting from anybody else. But when it comes to Skeleton Crew, I'm always excited for new Star Wars.
Are you excited for it?
I am. It's not something I am like. Ahsoka season 2. If somebody was like, "Hey, would you rather see Skeleton Crew right now or jump Lightspeed to Ahsoka season 2?" I would cut off my legs to see Ahsoka season 2.
I would see Ahsoka season 2 too.
But that's my thing is like, it's not necessarily my cup of tea. Once again, don't know a lot about it other than there's a Max Rebo kid, and Jude Law's going to be in it. But I am excited to see it for what it is. I just hope it delivers more than it just being a show centered around 4 kids, I guess. Like a lot of people say, oh, it's Stranger Things in Star Wars. Oh, it's Goonies in Star Wars, which is cool. But I like when Star Wars is Star Wars, not necessarily like, oh, it's this, but in Star Wars. You know what I mean?
I get that. It has its own voice. It's not just copycatting something else. Yeah.
I do not think fandom will be united the way it was in 2016 ever again.
John has felt this way for a while.
There was a moment in time. It happens in history. It happened to be December of 2017. The Last Jedi came out, fractured fandom down the middle, and people.
Would you say Holdo maneuvered it?
Yeah, it Holdoed, and I like The Last Jedi, but it happened, and we all know what happened. And people found their it like splintered off, and we had crumbs of this fandom, and we all like latched onto our own crumbs, and we developed our own little, opinions and stuff, and it's been hard to get people back on the same page. Yeah,
Mando season 2 finale was pretty close, though. I feel like that was so where everybody was on. Like,
I gave that a 10. I cried.
Except our guests when we covered that show.
Yeah.
Sorry, Steven. Steven's like, he's our guest that night. So,
and I love Steven. He's usually like, yeah.
Yeah,
like,
no,
yes, Tom Cruise,
absolutely.
yes, filmmaking, yes. And we were so excited to talk about it. He's like, I hated it. I
think he gave it like a 5.
Bummer.
So
I had people texting me from elementary school.
Day that Kathleen Kennedy watches our podcast because everyone loves Star Wars, and be like, this Resistance broadcast that they really promote this positive community, but they gave the Skywalker a 5. It's just
it totally threw off our whole rating too for like this season.
I was like, come on.
We're like,
one
our
outlier.
Score is a 6. No.
Oh, boy.
Next time we got to have the people that give all 10s. We got to have an all 10s person on.
Oh, jeez. No.
Pump the numbers.
Always important to be honest. So Paul's up. What up, Paul? He said, however this show ends, and despite the mixed reception, I'm glad they're trying something new. I love the variety of content these days. Great discussion tonight. Thanks, Paul.
Thanks Paul.
For your
Appreciate
super
it,
chat. I agree. I'm always willing for new stuff. Show me something I've never seen before. Like I just said with the possession thing. Like, am I for that? I don't know, but it was cool to watch. I've never seen it before.
Lacey.
What?
If you don't like possession in Star Wars, you can get it.
You can get out of here.
Get out.
Get out. And last but not least, we have Sooner Thron. Thank you so much for the super chat. Said, how is the show $180 million budget? That's a great question. We were going to talk about that. Disney is trying to make 4-hour films into 7-hour shows on MCU and Star Wars, so we get a Groundhog Day on Brendock.
People are being
That's funny.
about this. Yeah.
I do question where the budget went for the 100, or isn't it 200 million?
That was reported.
Yeah.
Same with Andor was like 250. It's the locations.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll admit, like, I did think a lot of the actual locations they filmed, especially the last episode at the island with Chimere and Osha, and then a lot of those landscapes from the episode prior, the one where everyone loved that episode. I think Fandom united for that episode.
Episode 5 was sick.
The Sith kebab, yeah. I think that the environments have been good, and that does cost a lot to build these sets and film on these locations. So, but at the same point, people bring up, like Game of Thrones season 6 cost $110 million, and that looks a lot better than this show did. So I don't know if it's like the Star Wars element of making things look Star Wars with the effects and the creatures. It adds up, I'm sure. I'm sure they're not just throwing money away. And I know the cost of supplies, lumber to build sets, like that's real stuff. That stuff costs a ton of money now. I'm not trying to make excuses, but I'm glad they're spending the money. It's like the Yankees. Like, they're like, oh, like when people call up, they're like, I can't believe the Yankees gave this guy this money. I'm like, why do you care? It's not your money. Like, you want to
give them all the money if we win.
Yeah, you want your team to win, so you feel better that you work 9 to 5 in a job you probably don't love. That's the whole point. Same with Star Wars. If they want to do a $5 billion budget for a show, and it's the greatest show ever, fine. Just pay Bob Iger less. I don't care.
Yeah.
I have been enjoying all the memes of Bob Iger where they're like, so Bob, what do you think about Epic Universe, which looks insane, straight bananas at Universal? And Bob's like, we're good. We've been doing stuff for like 30 years or whatever. And everyone's like, so you nothing? You got nothing.
His hand's shaking.
He's like, check out this sweater.
We're fine.
We have a new Country Bears, and she sings Try Something from Zootopia.
We've been around long enough where like Bob Iger is the villain now. Like, people love
We have
Bob.
Tiana, where she goes, y'all ready for the party? Like, that's what we have.
Chapek is like Krennic. He's like, this is my achievement.
You stand amongst what I have built.
I bet those meetings have happened where Chapek's like, I did Disney Plus.
And then he just gets he gets absolutely Tarkined by Bob Iger for all the good stuff.
Oh boy.
And it's like, Chapek, why don't you go to where we have all of our other secret plans at Tuesday around 2?
It's just an empty closet.
Yeah.
As long as he doesn't say like, we're just gonna take a breath. We're gonna take a break right now. As soon as you hear that from Bob Iger, you're like, oh no. See you in 7 years.
Yeah.
Now I'm thinking about Krennic's death and how like it's like one of the best deaths because he was actually a villain that was so like you love to hate him. And he literally got the Death Star laser like in the eyeball. He was like dead.
Excited to see him in Andor season 2, apparently.
I am too.
Popping up.
That's accurate. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right. So where do we think we're landing this? We want them to land we want them to land the YT freighter a little better than Han landing it in Savareen. We know there's talks of like, more seasons, so maybe there's going to be cliffhangers. So Will, you're our guest of honor. I'm not saying call your shot if you don't want to call your shot, but how do you think they're going to generally try to land this thing with all these other questions and stories and arcs they have to try to at least round out a bit?
So an easy answer. The easiest answer is where they're going to land. They're going to land on Brendock. But the easiest answer is everyone will die. That's like, if I was a betting man, a lot of people, even from when this show was coming out, everybody was like, there's no way. If they know that there's Sith around, like, everybody has to die. That's the only way. If there's witnesses, it ruins canon. Like, that's not what I'm saying here. However, I do think a lot, because everybody is in the wrong, a resolution where everybody is kind of a bad guy, maybe everybody will die. You know what I mean? I think there's going to be May and Osha are both not making it out of this. Potentially because they end up becoming the same person. Just based on the whole weird witchy stuff that's going on. Power 2, Power 1.
Man.
maybe they converge into one person, or one dies and the other one sucks up their Force essence, kind of the way, who knows, maybe that's what Mother Anastasia was doing. Maybe that's what Indara was like, oh, how could you lead? You're a child. Maybe that's what all the witchy stuff. If they can all control one person, can one person control all of them in reverse, kind of like Indara, who killed all of them? So that's what I think. I think Soul is absolutely going to die.
Yeah.
100%. He's done for. If he's still alive, like, one, the Jedi need better. The Council needs better counseling, first off, and they need better reprimanding tools, because this guy seems to be at a lot of problems. But I think if we do find out, like, a weird, here's my reach, the reason why Soul wanted a Padawan so bad and why Indara brings it up is because he already had a Padawan and they either died or it was Kamir as a kid.
That's the question. Yeah, and then they show his scar too.
Yep.
That like right
it.
after Vernestra's light whip, that you're like, it must be this straightforward. It looks like a whip scar, and she has a whip.
Yeah.
Well, someone, I really do got to track this by. I mean, a bunch of people said this, that they thought that that's probably clear misdirection and that it's Force lightning from whoever his actual master is.
Oh, I didn't even consider
sick.
that. I kind of want it to be Vernestra though, because I want it to be going back to what you said earlier, Will, with like the straightforwardness of it. Like, it's just, is it too obvious?
Yeah.
Because they cut it back to back.
I kind of want to see Chimera kill Vernestra for some reason.
I want to see.
Get ready for that Twitter to come after that for all the High Republic.
I think that Soul is going to get killed by Osha. I think that's going to be her final step.
Oh, yeah, because in that episode where Kamir's like, he says something like, "If you have no one, that's when you're truly free." That's where he's like, got to kill off those people. That's why Anakin wanted to kill Obi-Wan. And
Kylo killed Han.
Yep. Yeah. That's why we heard Kylo Ren's. Whoa. That's when we hear Kylo Ren's theme, is when she kills Soul again. Ooh.
Man. Yeah, you think they're doing the Knights Ren thing?
She just says thank you. She just, thank you.
That sucks. Yeah. I mean, because I really like Lee Jung-jae, and I thought he's done such a good job as Master Soul that I was like, you know, what Star Wars has been doing, like whenever they introduce a new cool character, they kill them pretty quickly. Like Giancarlo Esposito, assuming he's dead in the Mando, what the Star Wars. But
I've seen a Star Wars.
He wasn't really in it a lot, and I thought, based on like his arrival, I was like, this guy's gonna be the next great Star Wars villain. He's chilling me to my core, like Hannibal Lecter. And then he tries to kill himself, and they like General Hux him. They like turn him into this menacing guy into a Looney Tunes character. And it's like, my clones. Yeah, exactly. So on the flip side with Master Soul, I'm like, here's a new cool character. Lee Jung-jae is awesome. I hope he lives on. But you're right. Like, after this past episode, I'm like, I don't know where he goes from here. He's clearly gone on and still like led this lie that he's this great Jedi, and he's a teacher. He's teaching lessons. Kids are saying, I sense fire in his class, and he's like, very good. It's like, not very good.
That's not good. Yeah.
I see death. Yeah, what else?
Send that kid for reconditioning or whatever the Jedi version of it is. So it's just like, that's maybe so that guy shouldn't be teaching, Jedi 101. Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe he is out, but it's been fun either way. That's the thing that's most important for me. It's like,
true.
I've enjoyed watching the show every week and trying to figure it out. And I like being wrong with theories. I like being like, oh my God, that was actually right. That's cool. And I feel like chatting with all of our guests, and including you, Will, like this episode has flew by. Just it's so fun, because this is part of nerding out, is like the theorizing and the speculating. And like, if you sucked this conversation out of this podcast and tried to have it in front of our families, they'd be like, you guys are so nerdy.
So weird. Shut
up. Weird. And it's like, to us, this is a normal.
Can you pass the potatoes, please?
Yeah. This is a normal conversation. So no matter how you feel about the Acolyte, whether you're like, it's been fun, but it's not my favorite, like me, or you're giving it a 0, or you're giving it a 10. As long as like you realize you know it's a TV show, it's meant to entertain you, it's meant to like escape the real world and put it in perspective. You can have fun with this stuff, and that's what I've been having. So
yeah.
The crazier, the better. Honestly.
Oh yeah.
Lacey, are we getting any sort of big reveal next week? Do you think there's going to be a Master of Chimere teased, revealed, anything like that?
I think it's Indara. I'm sticking with it. I've stuck
Okay.
with it for a while now. I
Mhm.
knew Chimere was creepy from episode 2. Stuck with that. Paid off. I think Indara's the bad guy. I think we're going to get one of those montages where it's like, and then I did this, and you thought I spoke to the Jedi, but I didn't. And then I did this and this and this. I think it's
It would be smart because we were collecting all these clues all these weeks, and then they dropped this episode, and everyone's like, even me, I'm like, I was wrong about Indara. I misjudged her. I'm sorry. And then next week they're like, just kidding. She's the most evil person in the show. So
right down to the extra tear drop that she's got on her eye later on. She's got the one, and then she has 2. Like,
yeah,
I don't know. I don't like her.
I'm going with it.
She's on the poster for Disney Plus. When you turn on Disney Plus, you look at the Acolyte. It's Soul, it's May, and it's Indara. I don't think that's
and
just
Kelnaka
because
naked, so they could be like, "Hey, look, it's Chewie."
He's got a handbag. He's got some accessories. He's got a hair tie.
Driving down like Sunset Boulevard. They're like, oh, they got the Chewbacca back in.
Yeah, that's literally that. I know that's what they're doing. It's like, oh, it's Chewbacca. No, it's not.
And they say it like how George Lucas says it's Chewbacca.
Chewbacca with a bunch of Y's.
Oh man. Anything else you guys want to touch on about this episode, or any predictions for next week before we close out?
I think we're gonna get a kiss next week. A romantic moment between Chimere and Osha.
Interesting.
Which, again, I don't know how because the payoff's not there, but I think it's going to happen.
I think Osha's
with or without the mask.
Without the mask.
Oh, all right.
I think Osha's going to kiss him, and then it's going to be zoom out, and he has a lightsaber through his chest, and Osha kills him.
Ooh, that's nuts, but I don't think that's the case because he wants a pupil, an acolyte.
Yeah, but what are these? That's what these Sith do. They kill the one ahead of them.
Yeah,
so
but then you're saying Osha's going to turn completely like past the point of no return, and
I'm not that. I mean,
or she could be like, I don't need a master.
I don't feel that
bad.
Yeah, I think she might be bad too. And to Will's point, what if they merge the consciousness back into one, and May ceases to exist, but it becomes the whatever. But I
didn't even consider that. What if May
Will
is
said that before,
like,
and I was like,
yeah, what if, because they do bring that up that it's like 2 pieces of the whole, and they've been doing this whole power of 2 thing. So what if May didn't they do that in a movie? What movie did they do that where they like it ends up to be 2 pieces that come into one?
Face off.
Well, I don't want to spoil a movie, but a movie does something similar that I really enjoy.
John's so afraid about spoiling movies because he's done it so many times that everyone in the comments is always like, John, spoil movies again.
Yeah.
But anyway, I just know that there is one that happens, that like then at the end they come together, and then oh no, I'm thinking of Reese Witherspoon in that movie with Mark Ruffalo where her ghost goes back into the body.
No, you know what it is? It's Superman 3.
Whoa, that's a really good point. Where they're separated, then they come back.
Mine or his?
Good point.
Yeah,
the Superman one. I have no idea about that Reese Witherspoon movie.
I don't either. I was smiling and nodding just to be polite. But
I have no idea what that movie is, but
basically, like,
probably not going to watch it.
So what happens is they then at the end, when Reese Witherspoon gets back with her body, she loses all the memories she's made with Mark Ruffalo as a ghost. So like that's the thing, is like when they come back together, will she lose May's persona, or will she have both voices in her head? She eventually remembers when they kiss at the end, but
anyway. Yeah. I don't know.
But Superman 3, great reference.
Superman fought himself.
Sorry, big nerd.
and beat his like evil alter ego, his drunk, oil-stained evil alter ego, and then revealed that he's back.
It's like Bizarro. Bizarro
Yeah.
Superman, Bizarro.
I don't know.
Bizarro Jerry.
I'm sure I'll have fun with it no matter what they do next week. It's just like I have no idea what we're in for, and that excites me. So
what
yeah.
I really hope it is not is a epilogue style episode where it's completely separate to the point where it's like Mando and Book of Boba Fett, where it's like completely removed, but then at the end they tie it back in. That's what I would really be bummed about. As much as I would love to, like, if they put the spotlight on Kamir for a good 44 minutes with 7 minutes of credits, I would love to see that, but I just wish it happened a little bit earlier rather than now. I just that's my worst fear is they go, ooh, they like Kamir. Well, get ready for a whole lot of Kamir, but it doesn't wrap anything up. Because a lot of people were mad about this episode thinking like, okay, there's no stakes anymore. Like everything was wrapped up. We know whose fault it was. And also kind of nobody is at fault because everybody thought they were morally correct, but it's just nobody's problem. I don't know.
Misunderstanding. Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. And I'm actually worried that Chimera is going to get killed because like he's a great villain and they seem to knock off their villains really quick or redeem them.
But we could just get another one, John.
Exactly.
The power of one, but the power of two.
I guess my prevailing thought heading into episode 8 is like from childhood, like May seemed to be more like, all right, so this is my station in life. I am okay with that. This is, my path. And she didn't realize that she had a choice in the matter. She misinterpreted her mother's message, all that stuff. And then Osha, on the other hand, was like, I want to just be on my own. I want to conquer the galaxy. I want to become a Jedi. I want to do all these things. She has more of that ambitious like personality, which to me would lend more ease to turn to the dark side because of the temptation of what's out there. Whereas May's like, I'm at home with my mama. I'm a homebody. I'm staying here. I'm cool. She saw bad things, which led her to be manipulated. She saw her mother get killed by a Jedi. Assuming that point of view was accurate. Who knows what happens next week? But it's all, it's all laid out for them to do whatever they want. If they can land everything, I'll be standing ovation. There's a lot to do. There's a lot to do.
Can I ask you guys a question?
Oh, yeah.
When that whole like Force essence, spooky, misty ghost happens, right before that, Soul goes, Osha, and it's obviously May.
Yeah.
Is that because he sees it's Osha, or I really hope it's not? He's like, oh, I don't know which twin that is. Like it's a.
I did notice that he says that to her, and I was like, that's clearly not Osha.
And it's like a weird pause too, where like he goes, Osha, screams, and then everything goes silent, and it just cuts to May, like just looking into the camera, and then she does the whole no, and that's when it's like very slow in that moment, and there's a lot of pausing. There's weird timing there. I want to know why Soul did that.
That's a great point.
My only guess is like tunnel vision, because he's like, I got to get that kid out of here. And he sees her and he's just like, I got to protect Osha. So he just thinks of her only.
Or it explains why he didn't realize it was not Osha when he first took her off episode 6 when she gets back on the ship. At first, when he doesn't recognize her, trying to like be like, see, he didn't know back then. He doesn't know now.
What do you have any thoughts on it, Will?
Well, on the ship, there's a bunch of stuff where I'm like trying to figure out on the ship. I was very worried that it was going to be this whole thing where like Soul doesn't know it's May the whole time. But like it seems like him and Kamir figured it out immediately. You know what I mean? Where they were like, oh, this is obviously Osha, this is obviously May. We've got a parent trap situation. But after that scene where Mother Coral says May run and she runs off and Soul goes after the kids, he's not just looking for Osha. He's the first name he yells is May. May, Osha, and he's yelling for both kids, looking for both of them. If it was really where his focus was only Osha the entire time, and obviously he makes a decision of like the power of 2, I really only need the power of 1, let the one kid fall. Pick your favorite child. Who's your favorite kid, Dad? But that's why I'm like, it's weird if he's got one track mind or tunnel vision with just Osha, when he's actively looking for both of them. And even at the beginning with Idara, where she's like, oh, you don't need a Padawan. This is why you don't have a Padawan. And he wants to save both kids the entire time.
Yeah.
Where it's kind of just like, it's easier that this one's listening to me. So maybe this is my favorite. I'll turn this one into my Padawan. But if I get both, cool, 2 for 1. It's just weird that that at that moment, how, and then with the whole Mist thing, if it ends up being a whole dream sequence, like inside Torben's head,
no,
I'm gonna be mad. When you said that earlier of like maybe Torben's, and you were like kind of messing around about him being the Sith Lord, I was like, Torben is the only one who's still around, maybe Mother Coral is, outside of May and Osha, who have been possessed by Anastasia. So maybe that's when he wakes up, he knows it's May immediately because he still has that weird Force essence in him from when he was possessed last.
That could track. Yeah.
So that's why I'm like, next episode, if it comes out to be where like even Soul was the one being possessed and all of this was a Force vision, I'm going to be like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's weird.
We did have
movies do that.
Yeah, neither do I. We did have a super chat from Troy, but it doesn't have anything, Troy. So if you want to put it in the chat, we'll try to get to it quickly. But thanks for the super chat.
Thank you, Troy.
You've been awesome tonight.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a ride, and it certainly is going to be interesting what happens next week. So we want to thank everybody for listening and watching, being part of TRB. We hope you had a good time, regardless of how you feel about this episode or the show or Star Wars. Hopefully you enjoyed this chat, because it's all about having a good time in the end. So thank you for that. A special thank you to our movie star generals and spice runners on Patreon. Your support means so much to us, and we hope to see a bunch of you in our hangout just after the show here, as well as our admirals. But Carmelo, John Reese, Jetta Rosewater, Frank Grande, Nick Kratz, Chris Morales, Brian Smith, Danny Micromori, Brendan McLaughlin, Sneaky Zebra, Dave Hornack, Jolton Jedi DiMaggio, and Colin Cormier are our movie star generals and the Silver Screen Spice Runners: David Probus, Neil Shaw, Kendall Gellner, Andrew Staley, Jeremy Myers, and the Fort Worthian. And all of our supporters, however you support us, whether it's just like, hey, check out this podcast, or you support us on Patreon, thank you very much. And make sure you support Will. Will, once again, your plugs. Where can people find Will of the Force?
Will of the Force everywhere. If you type it in, there's probably there's an underscore usually at the end, but sometimes, like on Twitter, it's in the middle, like Will _ of the Force, whatever. But follow, go ahead, plug me. But before we end, I would like to say thank you both, from a Star Wars fan who was watching a long time ago with you guys. Thank you for being a positive corner of the galaxy. Seriously.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, we have fun.
You guys rule, and it's always fun listening. And like, usually I get off work and then you guys are like halfway through the episode, so I always catch the end half live on the way home. It's like I'm listening to Howard Stern, but it's Star Wars. But seriously, thank you guys for being a fun and exciting place for people to go who want to just have fun about Star Wars. That's what it's all about.
Thank you. Dude, it is
right back at you. We definitely wanted to reach out to have you on, not just randomly, because we like your vibe too. So thank you for taking the time. I know you got your stuff
come back anytime.
Real life. So yeah, anytime you want to pop back in the base, the door is open for you, buddy. It's been just as fun as I thought it would be. So look forward to hanging again, and maybe at a future celebration or who knows what. But appreciate it. So yeah, make sure everybody goes follows Will the Force. Will's a good dude, and your whole crew over there that you hang out with all seem to be of the same ilk. So give our best to them.
Yeah, they're all right.
Base. And then for us, Lacey, where can people find you?
People can find me on social media at Lacey Gillerin, and on TikTok at It's Lacey Gillerin, and of course on Mondays on Nerdy and Nice, our pop culture podcast that we started. We're 10 episodes now, which is like it's a crazy milestone for us. I know that we just did 700 here for TRB, but doing 10 and something brand new, and it's exciting and a little scary. And this Monday we're gonna do a live version of Nerdy and Nice to cover all the events from San Diego Comic-Con. So stay tuned for that.
Yeah, I gotta set my alarm to remind myself.
Yes, you do.
Mondays are for the nerds. Yeah. So check out Nerdy and Nice on its own feed, or if you're watching on youtube.com/@TRB podcast. But thanks everybody so much. We hope you enjoyed this chat. Spread the word about TRB, spread the word about Will of the Force, and let's keep having fun talking about Star Wars. But from the three of us here at AcoNight, until next week, where we talk about the finale with a guest. You don't know who yet, but we will. See you around, kids.